Welcome to Take a Side, the sports talk show that lets you, the viewer, choose our winners. As always, head over to Sidey.co and the Sidey Debates app for your chance to climb up that leaderboard. Shout out to last week's winner, true hotel guru, Bob Roush, who will be taking home a $25 Amazon gift card. This is the last show of the semester, and as a graduating senior, it comes with great pride and sadness to announce that today will be my last show as the host of Take a Side. So without further ado, let's get right to it. This past weekend's NFL draft saw some major surprises with teams like the Green Bay Packers and Oakland Raiders largely perceived as draft losers, while the Chicago Bears and Baltimore Ravens have been labeled as the draft's biggest winners. I'm joined now by McElroy and Ryan Atchison to give their takes for the NFL draft's biggest winners and losers.
Well, I think that the Baltimore Ravens had the best draft out of any other team, and I also think that they are poised to be able to make a big Super Bowl run and a legitimate Super Bowl run. You know, you have the whole stigma about, Lamar can't win a playoff game. He won one this year. Not only that, now he is surrounded with weapons. So the first overall pick for them was Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver from Minnesota. In my opinion, the true best, most complete wide receiver. Jamar Chase had 1 year, where Rashad had basically 2.5 years playing football, and I think that he is just an absolute stud in terms of route running, in terms of catching the ball and catch radius. He is a true wide receiver one, which is what Lamar has needed for a very long time. And then you look at their second pick in the first round from the Orlando Brown trade with the Chiefs. They got Jason Oweh, who's an edge rusher who has so much upside. He didn't quite have the production in college, but he's super athletic, and I think he'll be able to develop really well. And the Ravens are traditionally very good at developing players anyway. And so just with those first two picks that they had, I think this team has already made amazing and significant improvements with their offense and defense now.
The Ravens did have a good draft, I'll give you that. However, I think the Bears got the best draft overall. Their first round pick, let's talk about it, Justin Fields. Arguably, back a year ago or so, he was the number 2 quarterback right after Lawrence. And then Zach Wilson all of a sudden came up, and yeah, it's just how did Fields just drop so all of a sudden off the draft boards? He had 41 touchdowns and 3 picks 2 years ago, and the Bears just went aggressive and traded up for the guy. And now I don't think he'll start right away. I think it's probably smart for Andy Dalton to be their starting quarterback from week 1. And then ease Fields in, maybe start Andy Dalton probably 10 games in. But to me, the best draft doesn't have to be who makes the biggest impact exactly right away. It doesn't have to be a team that has to be a Super Bowl contender. But I think the Bears also were drafting Tevin Jenkins, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. Big dude, 6'6", 320, is a monster. He will push you over. He's got a head-hunting ability, and he's angry. He plays angry, and that's something the Bears need. They need somebody who plays angry, who is willing to get into the second half of the linebackers and safeties and run people over. And then they also drafted Khalil Herbert, a former KU player who played at Virginia Tech this last year, and he might be competing for some touches with David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. Cohen's still kind of questionable if he'll stay on the Bears. But I think overall the Bears just went aggressive. They didn't have much draft stock to begin with, but they went out and got their guys. And I think overall the Bears are going to look pretty good in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I love Justin Fields. I think he's going to be great. The problem, Will, is I've seen so many draft mocks and basically profiling of different people, and they all say Tevin Jenkins is a right tackle, and he can dominate at the right tackle, but he is not left tackle. And we just saw the Bears just release their left tackle. And so I don't know how good or how well he will be able to transfer over to the left tackle spot. Like you said, Justin Fields, I think he's going to be talented. I don't think he's going to necessarily start right away, but I think he will be great. But, in the draft, the whole goal is to win a Super Bowl. So you say that you want, teams, it's not about playing right away. However, you have, like the Ravens now, they are in win now mode before they have to pay Lamar. Now they finally got, last year the wide receiver room there was Willie Snead and Hollywood Brown, and now you have Rashad Bateman, Hollywood Brown, Sammy Watkins, and then you have Willie Snead, and then they also drafted Tylan Wallace from Oklahoma State. So that wide receiving core now is loaded with then Lamar, who obviously one of the best runners, maybe the best runner at the quarterback position to ever play the game. So this team is ready now, and they are built to win the Super Bowl.
They are ready, but it depends on Lamar. There's been question about his passing abilities, and yes, now they're getting him weapons, but this is going to be the ultimate test, I think, this season with all the weapons they've stacked up, drafting two wide receivers for the Ravens this year. It's really going to test how legit Lamar is going to be this year for the Ravens. Well, let's talk about draft losers. What do you got, Max, as your draft loser?
So the draft losers, the Green Bay Packers. I mean, the whole draft day, with the news coming out basically an hour before the draft started, you have Aaron Rodgers wants out. He is considering retiring rather than coming back to the Packers. Just a horrible, horrible situation for them. And then not only that, they draft a cornerback in the first round. And a cornerback, I would say it's someone. I think Eric Stokes is actually. I think he's fairly talented, but man, I don't think there was a bigger loser on Thursday night than there was the Green Bay Packers.
I would say, though, for the Packers, I think Eric Stokes was the right pick. I think they need somebody also to be on the other side of Jair Alexander. The secondary for Green Bay really struggled to cover wide receivers this year. But I think that pick, especially with Stokes, who is a really good corner, he can really have good ball hawking abilities and really shut down guys and get in guys' faces. But I'm going to make a bold pick here and say the Las Vegas Raiders are my biggest loser this year. And their first-round pick, Alex Leatherwood, great player. No disrespect for him. He's a fantastic tackle. I think they reached for him a little bit too high. Some experts were saying that he could be a second round. He would be more of a second-round draft choice. And a lot of the times that team tends to happen. But, I mean, the Raiders went out and got their guy. Don't get me wrong. But I think they could have used Tevin Jenkins there because they wanted to fill that right tackle position because they already got that left tackle position. So now they're going to have to transfer Leatherwood over to right tackle, and he's been spending most of his time at the left tackle position. Yeah,
the thing with the Raiders pick is I think they definitely reached, but we don't know if he was going to be available later on when they pick in the second round. Where I think if you flip the picks for the Raiders, they got Trevon Moore, a stud safety from TCU. They got him in the second round and Alex Leatherwood in the first round. I feel like if you flip that, it doesn't end up being that bad. Where the Packers, it seems like they just have no direction. They drafted 3 interior offensive linemen last year, and then this year they drafted another 2 interior offensive linemen. They drafted another running back after re-signing Aaron Jones, drafting A.J. Dillon. I just think that the Packers just don't have a direction that they want to go, where I think as the Raiders are, they're just at least trying to get talent on the field.
I would say, too, that the Raiders have had controversial picks with Mike Mayock being GM. I mean, a couple years ago, they drafted Colleen Farrell from Clemson, and he was projected late first round. They picked him at number 4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did draft, you mentioned Trevon Moore. Great player, probably the best safety in the whole draft. But then they drafted 2 other safeties. So I didn't understand. They missed a big opportunity with a wide receiver. They needed another wide receiver for Carr on the other side to make a big impact with Ruggs. And then Tyrell Williams sat out last year or got injured last year. But I think they needed one more wide receiver to make a big difference. I think just overall the Raiders just missed a big opportunity to get another weapon for Carr.
Yeah, and it was very fun to watch that on draft night and the whole weekend unfold. We are going to take a short break, and we will be back right after the commercials.